Welcome to Funemployed, where we feature stories from self-employed creatives and entrepreneurs from all over the world in a whole range of different industries. I'm James Daly, and today's video features Ben Marriott, an incredibly successful motion designer and YouTuber. He has over 300,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, where he teaches weekly animation and motion design tutorials, as well as through his own premium online courses. In this video, he takes us through his whole journey from working in-house to then being a freelancer and then where he is today as a YouTuber. Really interesting story. Check it out.
I'm Ben Marriott. I'm a motion designer. I'm based in Sydney, and I make weekly YouTube tutorials all about the motion design industry, mainly After Effects kind of stuff, bit of design, bit of illustration, and that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years. So I studied design at university at the UNSW here in Sydney. It's called Art and Design now. It was called COFA back then. And that was a very open degree that I majored in graphic design and object design. And I kind of use that a lot in my practice today. It's very design focused, and shortly after university, or I suppose towards the end of the degree, I really realized that I wanted to be in illustration, to be an illustrator. So I started working as an illustrator, freelance for a couple of years after university. But then I wasn't doing too well. I was doing all right. I was getting by, making a living, but the temptation for a full-time job when I got offered one at a video company was too good to pass up at the time. So then I was illustrating and designing for animations essentially, and this was before I knew animation. And I knew a tiny bit of After Effects that I'd used in uni. So slowly over, I think it was 3 years at that company and another company, I slowly built up my animation skills to where that was my new favorite thing. So I like to think of it as I've had four stages to my career so far. The first 4 years were learning design at uni. The next 2 years were learning illustration as a freelancer. The next 3 years were learning animation and motion design. And then the most recent 2 years have been me on YouTube learning about how to present myself and build an audience on social media and try to turn that into a business as well. So my preparation for jumping into freelance again was, I suppose, pretty meticulous as far as it goes. I didn't just leap out into the wild and hope for the best, because I am very risk averse and fear change. So I made sure I had a long runway and a long plan. The moment that instigated me wanting to go freelance was listening to Joey Korenman, who's the founder of School of Motion, on the podcast, where he talked about his book called The Freelance Manifesto. And in that, he detailed the process of finding and getting new clients. And that was always the biggest problem for me. I was, fine. I felt I was doing good work behind my computer, but I really struggled to tell people about it. I wasn't very sort of confident and extroverted. I really struggled with trying to sell myself. And this book outlined a plan for that. So that was really helpful. I thought, that's the missing piece of the puzzle. If I can get a hold of that, I can be successful as a freelancer. And those temptations of working less hours and earning more money were very, very tempting for me then. But I knew that where I was living at the moment, it was only a 1-bedroom flat with my then girlfriend, now wife, and I needed a lot more room. And our lease ended in another 6 months. So I had 6 months before I knew we could move out to find a bigger place. And there was 6 months of preparation I had to put together a new reel, build a buffer of savings, and learn all I can to prepare myself for going out to freelance. And once I did that, and once I left that job, I essentially was hired by them again for another 3 months after that, essentially doing the same job anyway. So I got an extra, I suppose, 3 months worth of a soft cushioning into my freelance career. So it was a very, very, very gradual process. Definitely that book, The Freelance Manifesto, was a huge help, especially for, mainly for like client outreach in order to attract new clients. And I wouldn't even say that I got an awful lot of my clients through that process, but having the confidence of that method really helped me sort of be able to, leave behind my tethers of this full-time job and be able to go out into the world. And And a lot of the clients I found happened to come organically or through word of mouth. Mainly, I think when I was starting, through my former employer and like the companies that I'd worked at before. Like lots of people had moved on from that company and remembered me, so recommended me from there. And really, I suppose just a lot of online resources. Mainly, I think just random people on YouTube. Like I don't have such a really distinct memory of this person taught me this, but I think I've just collected everything through bits and pieces. The Future, Christo's Christo's channel on YouTube they've got enormous amount of work and helpful resources there that really help fit together a few of the little pieces. But I think just randomly through YouTube, I've read a lot of audiobooks about business. The main ones you hear about, the 4-Hour Work Week, and Cal Newport's books I really enjoyed, Deep Work, and there was one other one, So Good They Can't Ignore You as well. Those ones were my favorites, I think. So the jump off point to YouTube was pretty much exactly 1 year after I started freelancing. And that was because my first year at freelancing had gone really well. I'd set up a three-year plan for my freelance career. My first year was to earn a living at freelance, like cover my current costs, my base costs. My second year plan was to earn the equivalent of my previous wage. And then the third year plan was to earn like an extra 20% on top of that. Which would be like 100,000 Australian dollars. That was a nice round number. So in the first year, I made my 3-year goal. So I think, well, it went really well. I managed to be booked consistently. So I was kind of not struggling, but thinking, well, what do I do from here? How do I scale myself? I can only increase my day rate so much. Like I could maybe, if I up my day rate by 20-30%, I'd be at the very top end of the market, and I can only work so many hours doing that. So I thought, to scale my business, the best way to do that would be to grow an audience. Because what I really wanted to do is I discovered I wanted 3 things out of my creative career. I wanted maximum creative freedom, minimum responsibility, and maximum dollars. So I wanted the creative freedom to be able to do what I wanted, make what I wanted, be part of the projects that I wanted. I wanted minimum responsibility, which means I didn't want to start a studio. I did not like managing people. The thought of having other people on my payroll frightens me. Again, risk averse. And maximum dollars, I wanted money, I guess. I think we all want that. And I suppose a little bit of, the fame and glory of having an audience and being known. So I thought the way to do that would be to grow an audience. I wasn't exactly sure what I would want in 5-10 years, but I knew if I had a base of people who knew who I was and followed my work, whatever I'd want to do in the future would be a lot easier. So that was my plan. I thought, well, I'm going to try YouTube for 2 years. I think my goal was to do 100 videos of one a week. And if it didn't take off by that point, I knew, well, I'll try something else. And because I'd done well at freelancing, I knew that, well, I could take a significant amount of time off in that second year, and my freelance work that I'd take the other 6 months. And that's essentially how it worked. So 6 months of the year I spent freelancing, and that would support the other 6 months that I spent working on the YouTube channel and building that. And these all happened, 1 week, 1 month at a time. I wasn't, just January to June working freelance. It was, a week here, a week there, a month here, a month there. And yeah, that's how that sort of progression into a YouTube business started. The best thing about being self-employed is definitely the freedom. Like if a job comes up that I really want to do, I don't have a full-time job holding me back that's going to take 40 hours of my week. I can pick and choose which jobs I want. And, if I want to have a holiday, I can take a holiday. And if I want to work, 60 hours a week, 200 hours a week, I can, I can do that. I rarely want to do those things, but I have the option, and, I can decide what I want. And picking the projects, that's I don't have to pick. Now I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to pick, not bad projects, but I did at my previous jobs, I did a lot of our clients were casinos and betting companies that I've not, even ethically, I don't have a huge problem with them. It's just really boring work that I'm not interested in. Like more than anything, that's annoying. And I'm glad that I can be a bit more choosy now with what with what work I do and how I spend my time. The worst part is definitely the self-discipline it takes in order to consistently work when you know you don't have to, when you could just do nothing and things would kind of be okay for that day. There's no deadlines. It's trickier to get up and do it rather than having a boss expecting you to arrive at 9 o'clock and then you can clock off at 5. Also, the tuning out of the work mode I struggle with as well. I think when you're self-employed, a good quote I heard from, I think it was Mark Bricky from Adventures in Design. I don't know whether he came up with it, but I heard it from him. It was, being self-employed is great. Like you get to choose when you work. I get to choose exactly which 80 hours a week I want to work. And I really think that sums it up, because you don't really ever finish. There's always something that I could be doing, especially in YouTube. I could be making more videos. I could be writing more scripts for other videos. It's hard to know, hey, I've done my task for today, and here's where I'm going to stop, and here's where I'm going to start. I think the highlight so far was last year I spoke at NodeFest, which is a motion design conference down in Melbourne in Australia. It's the biggest and maybe the only motion design conference in Australia, New Zealand anyway. And it was really fun. I presented there, so it was a big stressful lead up to me giving this 30-minute presentation. But after that presentation was done, I felt the biggest relief. And then I got to watch awesome talks for the rest of the day and then hang out with everyone at the after party. And that was the first time at the after party where I'd met people that I hadn't known before, that had watched my videos and that were telling me how much they enjoyed them. And that was really so nice to hear, because really I don't, like in my day-to-day life, I'm not talking to people that, watch my videos, except of course, in the comments and in messages, but like actually seeing a physical person saying, oh, I watched a video, it was really nice. And I suppose like that's been the best moment so far, because I think like in 2020, it's been a very antisocial year, I think, for everyone. So that was really a highlight. And that had come, I think I was 8 months into my YouTube career then, and that was when I realized like, oh, this is really working. And I think it might have been just then or in the following weeks where I had my last freelance job. And I think now it was since last November when I had my last freelance job, and since then I've been living just off YouTube and YouTube related business on a content based business rather than a service based business. So yeah, that was when, all right, I've made it. This is working. I can sustain myself like this. My typical day, as you can imagine, differs a fair bit. Normally, I wake up probably around 8 o'clock, and by 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm at my desk at my studio, which is a second bedroom with a computer in it. And there, what my ideal day would be is working an hour to 90 minutes before I open my email. That is something I highly recommend to everyone. I know I should be doing it every day, but sometimes, I don't. And it's really good, because most of the time, for me, what I'm doing, I don't have urgent emails that are pressing. No email really needs to be answered within that 90 minutes. People can wait 90 minutes most of the time. If you're a freelancer and, you have feedback that you need to address or talk with, your art director or your client, maybe check it. But I'd love to just have time where it's my most important task of the day, get that done. And then I know if I get something I need to do on my email, like, because I'm scared of opening my email. People are going to be asking me to do things, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I have the mentality like, well, I'll better just do it now. And then by the time I've done that for 5 things, it's halfway through the day. And then I'm like, oh, I feel like, nothing productive got done. So if I do some work beforehand, at least I know something. I've made progress towards, what my most important project at the time is. And then normally I work, then it's probably, I suppose, 10:30. And then I work until noon on whatever project I have. Depending on the day, it could be writing scripts for YouTube video, it could be recording YouTube video, it could be designing assets or animating assets for the video as well, or some other tangential, venture that I'm doing, making a course, or doing a little bit of small freelance jobs, or preparing for something. And then I suppose I continue to do that until the end of the day. And then normally about 4:30 or 5 o'clock, I check my email for the second time that day and respond to all my things that I didn't respond to earlier. So normally in my first email thing, my first email opening adventure, I answer all the ones that can be answered within a couple of seconds or that is relatively urgent. And if they can wait till the end of the day, I just, mark them as unopened and then try to deal with them at the end of the day. And if they're really hard, I leave them for the end of the week, mostly. So occasionally one will like sneak through from the week before, but then I'm not happy with my past self. I try to keep on top of that, but that's my process. And I think I really want to reduce my time answering or replying to emails as much as possible, because that's not valuable work for what I'm doing. So that sort of structure helps me with that. And at the end of the day, I always write a list of all my things to do the following day. And I keep a really simple to-do list. Like, I like to be really minimal with this stuff and not overthink it with big plans and systems. Like, it's in a paper notebook, and I write AM on one side and PM on the other side. Email is written at the front in the morning and at the back in the evening, and then I can fill it up with 2 or 3 tasks on either side. If it's too detailed, like, nothing's important. Like, if everything's high priority, nothing's high priority. So I try to think of what are the most important things I need to do. I'm not always great at that, and of course things change, but I like to do that at the end of every day, and then at the end of every week, write a list of the things to do next week as well, and every month as well. But that it gets a little vague and blurrier when you get to those lengths. I would definitely say to be more confident. I'm not sure I would listen to myself, but I definitely think, as risk averse as I am, I think I could benefit from being more confident in releasing some projects or being brave in what I make. I tend to hold back, thinking like, oh, the client's not going to like this, I'll just give them a safe solution, or something along those lines, or like, oh, maybe this won't work, I'll just do something a bit more easier and moderate. And I think there's really not, I'm not gonna say there's nothing to lose by, going all out with what you do, but I think the benefits outweigh the cons. Like, even if you say you have, 3 client interactions and you pitch, your craziest ideas to them, they're going to reject it, maybe 2 out of 3 times. But in those times, you've always got your safe option to fall back on. You can always tone something back a lot easier than you can, make it go crazier. And then for the other option, you get to do something really exciting. And then, that, and I think what I've learned through my career is, like, once you do something that, is a bit more out there, or that you want to do, that, you haven't had the chance to do before, the more that sort of compounds and people see that and they want you to do more of that work. So you get to do more of that work and you keep pushing it every time. And I thought, I suppose, like compound interest, if I had started doing that earlier, my work could have been, by now a little, 10% more every year, 10%, more outrageous or more interesting, like where it could have been by now. So that's what I think I'd tell my younger self to do, especially in uni. At uni, I did, thinking about my final assignment, it was like, so, I suppose, boring. Like, I could have done anything. I had like 6 months to work on something I was really passionate about and do what I like, but it didn't end up being that exciting. And especially in university, you've got there's so little to lose. Like, that's what the whole point is. So I definitely say at uni, go all out as much as you can, and then afterwards, push it a little bit further. So at the moment, I'm working on trying to, I suppose, turn my my creative career into more of a sustainable business that's more product-based. So I'm putting together some courses, and I'm planning on doing that more consistently, so that, if I release a course or 2 courses every year, in 5 years' time, I've got 10 products that I can continue to be selling and only have, minimal support and checkup that I need to do. So that's that plan. I'm also doing a lot of, what I'm planning to do is a big series. I have a series called, I have I released Project Manticore this year, which was a big collaborative project. So at the moment, I'm planning for next year's one. So this one came out in June, and they take about 6 to 8 months. Well, the first one took 6 to 8 months to develop. So now I know well what's in store, how long it takes to get the result I want. So I'm going to have to start planning that soon. I've had my initial ideas sort of this year, and that's one project that I'm hoping builds every year. So if I do one every year, they are hopefully going to get better, or at least more interesting. And I figured if I just keep doing it for a long time, they're bound to get better and more exciting. And that's just one thing that isn't really not that it isn't part of my YouTube sort of career and plan there, but this is something that I just miss, because doing YouTube videos, I'm doing a lot of writing and scripting tutorials. It isn't as exciting as doing some cool client work. I don't have to do the boring client work, but it's rare that I get to do some really exciting work. So this is something that I'm doing to make sure that I'm doing exciting work as well. Because I think the plan was, when I started the YouTube channel, was I'm going to be just working on cool personal projects all the time. And a year and a half later, it's a lot of writing and a lot of editing and a lot of things that aren't animating. So I want to try to bring in more animation and things that I actually really enjoy, and make sure I don't lose that in the pursuit of, just getting more videos out or growing the business that way. I want to keep that, on the back burner, rolling in the background. And I think that's something that's important to me, and an important thing that I think the key to why I think I've been done well on YouTube is the really consistency. And I think through my career as well, I was focused on doing a lot of personal projects. And with YouTube, I think my secret is I just committed to doing 50 of them. I'll do 50, one a week for 2 years. And really, that's as simple as you need to be. You don't need to get super complicated about what exact wording in the thumbnails and titles, because you're going to learn that. You're going to grow. That sort of information will find its way to you. I mean, you should look it up as well. Don't just pretend like it's going to come out of the air. But you're going to figure that out anyway, as a byproduct of making videos consistently. And that's the most important thing. If you just get up and make it, and that's easier said than done. If you have a full-time job, that's tricky to do, to spend all this time working on these projects. But the simple fact of, if you do this thing and you commit to just doing it, and you don't, judge yourself on the quality of how good it is or how well it's received, you just commit to making something. I think over time, you're just by virtue of practicing it a lot, you're going to get better at it. So with these collaborative projects, I'm thinking, I'm putting all my effort into each one every year, but I'm thinking about the long term. In 10 years, what the 10th one is gonna, not what the 10th one's gonna look like, but I think by year 10, I'm gonna know what I'm doing, and then it's gonna be a lot more effective, I think. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. A project due in 10 years. Definitely Freelance Manifesto by Joe Corriman that I mentioned. That book is awesome. It's a really short read. I think it's like $14 on Amazon, even cheaper on the Kindle version. Buy that, it'll easily pay for that. That's, if you get one job from it, that's, and your day rate is, $100. I mean, your day rate should not be $100. If your day rate's $500, that's like, what, 8 minutes worth of work, and you've paid it back. So that, I definitely think the future as well, that's really helpful for a lot of broad topics, but not really much more specific ones than that. I suppose I just type what I want to know into YouTube, and hopefully, something comes up that's highly recommended. And I think after you do that for a long enough time, you can spot quickly what's going to be valuable and what isn't. Sometimes just based on the presentation, or the not necessarily that the attitude, but the persona that's giving it, and how it's how it's portrayed. You can kind of get like a sense of these things, like, oh, this one's worth my time, this one's not, or this one's clearly aimed at more beginners, this one's clearly aimed at more advanced, or this one's perfect for me right now making this transition. That book by Joe in particular hit me at the exact right time. The best place for people to follow me is on YouTube. I'm Ben Marriott on YouTube, as well as on Instagram. I'm at Ben_Marriott_. Marriott, 2 R's and 2 T's. I'm sure it'll be on the screen at the moment. Thank you, James. But if you want to follow me anywhere else, if you type Ben Marriott into the search engine, hopefully you'll find me by then. If not, Follow that other Ben. They've earned it. They've done the SEO.